All
We need to get
right.
our intro up, man.
Well, I know. I just gotta, do it. We are live. Welcome to the Movie Bros podcast, your favorite podcast where you come to watch and listen to people talk, review, and debate over the some movie pairings that are questionable. I am Larry Signs. With me, as usual, is Hilda
Hello, my friends.
and Chad.
Hello.
And today, special guest, we have Missy, Misdemeanor the writer. Woo!
No, sort of.
It's a party now.
Oh, I
Welcome.
love that movie. See, that's a romantic comedy.
Today, the movies we are reviewing are the brand new Netflix original "Your Place or Mine," starring Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon. Um, and we are also doing 1991's "Sleeping with the Enemy." That would be Act Two, "Your Place or Mine." That would be Act Two. I'm sorry. Summary. Summary. Anyways, so we are here to talk about these movies. I guess the romantic comedy is back. The summary for Your Place or Mine is the official summary is Debbie and Peter are best friends and total opposites. She craves routine and her son in Los Angeles, but he thrives on change in New York City. When they swap houses and lives for a week, they discover that they think they might not be what they really need. They discover what they think they want. Oh, there you go. They discover what they think they want. There's no pun. It might not be what they really need. There you go. So Your Place or Mine came out this year. It came out last week, I think it was, on Netflix. Like I said, it's a Netflix original, and runs at 111 minutes. And Reese Witherspoon, which was a staple in the romantic comedy genre, and which has gone away for a minute, and now back? Question mark.
Hard
Is
question mark.
Big
yeah,
question mark.
yeah, question mark. Because I don't know how many movies is how many romantic comedies does it make for a genre to be back? You know what I mean? Like how many movies
Right.
have to be made for a genre to be back? It's they're not like vampire movies where usually when you find one vampire movie, you're gonna find 15 coming right up on behind it. So, trying to
True.
figure
I
it
mean,
out.
I don't know if rom coms will ever go away, right? Per se, but
But they did.
this one
They
was
did.
this one
But
was
they did though. They definitely
no,
went
they're
away.
Well,
not
they became
maybe.
less common. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, like they're not.
Like
They may not
Westerners
be
have
in
gone away.
theaters, but man, have they thrived on cable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true.
I
But
don't
like,
know.
even
Yeah.
look at Westerners. They when was the last time you saw a Western movie released in the theater?
Do you mean westerns?
Western. You know what I say?
You said Westerners, and
Oh, I'm sorry, Westerns. Yeah,
it
that's
threw
not
me.
a
I was like, which
Westerners is not a no wrong category. Oh,
I was like,
Westerns.
is he trying
Yes.
to lawyer us? Is he trying to make up his own words on the spot?
I mean, I do have an advanced degree. I should be able to make up my own words. I believe that was part of the package.
I think, yeah, you paid. That's the package, right? That's the
Yeah,
VIP
yeah,
package. Like advanced degree. Oh, you get to make up words now. All right.
yeah. Absolutely.
Um.
I am a doctor, just not a real doctor.
All right. So let's go around the room. Helder, what'd you think of the movie? Of Your Place or Mine? Your
Oh man,
initial 60-second
there's
reaction to the movie.
okay. I'll probably never watch this again. Like, let's
Okay.
just start there. All right, and I like I do I like rom coms, and I like Reese Witherspoon, and I like Ashton Kutcher, and I thought I was gonna like this, and it just I don't know. It's like if you miss that early 2000 vibe, then you probably really liked this, right? I thought I thought Steve Zahn as Zen and Zoe Chow as Minka were like two of my favorite. Whenever they were on scene, it was like that. I was just like, oh, okay. I don't know. Overall, it felt a little forced, you know.
Okay.
And it's not even like the actors or just the storyline. And then I started noticing like a couple of little goofs, and then they threw me off. You know, like the hockey scene, and it's like how do you not recognize this guy? He's like, oh, do you have one out there? And it's like Evan's mom. It's like, dude, he just took your kid like last night to a hockey game. Like, you don't know where your kid was
Yeah.
last time. So it's
Could have
like
been his
that
dad.
that I was like, how do you not recognize him? You know? And then like
Parents in
the
LA are weird though, so maybe they don't.
I,
He
I mean,
really
it's
didn't
probably
see
they
maybe.
handed off with their nanny, got handed off the kid to
Yeah, yeah,
the,
You
the
yeah.
know,
guy.
it could be. And then for me, like, okay, I don't have kids, and I definitely don't have a nanny if I had kids. So it's like for me, I was like, how do you not know that that's the man that like took your kid to a hockey game last night? So I don't know, things like that. Um, but I loved Steve Zahn in it. I loved Zen, his character. I thought he was hilarious. And Minka was kind of a surprise, right? I thought at first I was like, oh man, this girl. But then she turned out to be really, really cool. And so she was a little surprised in there. I don't know. I think I wanted to like it more than I did.
Okay.
Those are initial more than initial
Missy,
thoughts.
Missy, what's your initial thoughts on this movie?
I liked it, but I agree with Hilda that it felt very. I mean, there's a checklist of things you have to hit to call yourself a rom com, and this one did it. I liked what I don't know that if I watch it again, maybe like I don't know on the background, but I think what I particularly enjoyed is that it catered to an older audience, which bleh, I hate that I just said that, but it's true because most of the rom-coms when they were at the peak, and I'm talking like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like back 20 years ago, like it was this coming of age, like early 20 something, always working at a magazine, and like that was the thing. And that's what I thought that this was gonna be, that it was gonna be more like, I don't know, like a coming of age. I don't know, but I didn't expect it to be a rom com with two people that had like baggage, which is nice. Like a little more complicated, a little baggage that was a little more substance than just like, a career crisis. I also enjoyed the character of Mika. She's really great. She reminds me of one of my friends who talked me out of she called it the Canadian tuxedo. I went through a phase where I would wear jeans, like a jean jacket and the jeans. Apparently, that's a fashion party foul.
I like the fact that you
Fine
described
with me.
what a Canadian tuxedo is. Like we all know what a Canadian
Oh, I
tuxedo.
was catering to the audience, but okay.
Oh, yeah, we all like. I was like, yeah. I was like, preach. This is the Canadian tuxedo is the shit. I'm like that's the
Yes.
shit.
Okay,
Sounds good to me. I don't have a
I'll
problem with it.
admit. So I'm putting my hand up, but I'll admit that's the first time I've heard that. So thanks.
Oh,
Really?
okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
the
I
more
did-
you know.
I know. I just saw a
Um,
little star flash across. The
Yeah. So I liked it. I thought it was a fun plot. It hit the right amount of predictability and little twists that I was looking for, and so I'd recommend. I'm not gonna like. It's not going on my heavy rotation of shit that I watch, stuff that I watch, but I enjoyed it. It was cool.
Okay. Chad.
I liked it. It's definitely not on my like I would watch on the regular list, but if it happened to pop up, or a friend hadn't seen it and really liked Ashton Kutcher, because I think I was telling Aunt this, my wife, she and I really liked it mostly because it gave Ashton Kutcher something to actually act as opposed to being like the dumbass, and or the like the constant comedic trope, and he really did a good job in this one, I thought. And then Reese Witherspoon is great in almost everything she's ever been in, so that wasn't a shocker. And I forget the guy who played Theo, he was pretty good. Just that.
Oh, Jesse Williams,
Jesse
Yeah.
Williams.
Mr.
Good God.
Mr.
man.
Blue Eyes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's uncomfortably dreamy.
So
It's like looking at the sun, like just like
Funny is I just saw him last night in Cabin in the Woods. Like I was watching that, and so when I see he popped up on this, I was like, oh.
I was quite comfortable watching him.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. So anyway,
so
the
pretty.
like
You are so
overall,
pretty.
like I would recommend it. Like if someone like rom-coms, I definitely got the early 2000s, late 90s vibe from it. But like as Missy said, aged up, which unfortunately that's where we are. I thought it hit a lot of good notes. So it's not going to be because it's just not my favorite genre, but definitely a good movie to watch.
Yeah, I would say rom-coms are like right up there with my favorite genre. I think it's like action movies and then rom-coms would be my, 1A, 1B, or maybe 1C as far as dramas are concerned. But anyways, I love rom-coms. And I love Ashton Kutcher. He's been in some of my favorite rom-coms. Something like A Lot Like Love with Amanda Peet. He did great in that. Even the straight more comedy than the Just Married movie they did were great. No Strings Attached wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't as far as rom coms are concerned. This to me, this movie was like I don't know if anybody here has ever had keto bread, like low carb hamburger buns,
Yeah.
where you have them and you're eating them and you're like, this is a hamburger bun. There's no denying it, but there's definitely something off. It's one of those like Instagram recipes that you go, you know this delicious thing that you love? Yeah. Well, I made it healthy. I just took out I have these same main ingredients, but I took this out and this out, and it's kind of like, and I modernized it, and now I put it in an air fryer instead of deep frying it, and it's the same but healthy. And you're like, it's not really the same. And that's how I felt about Your Place or Mine. You have a couple of staples, the main ingredients, Reese Witherspoon, Ashton Kutcher, like this is like main staples in as far as rom coms are concerned. And I would say Reese Witherspoon has better movies, better rom coms than Ashton does. But you're just like, you're not wrong. This is definitely a rom com, but it's also keto, right? Like we're also fully aware that it's not, right? This is like
It's
the
the
diet version.
cauliflower rice. Like the
Yeah, it's just,
cauliflower rice
Oh,
substitute for white rice.
yeah. Don't look, man. I'm fine with eating cauliflower. Just don't tell me it's mashed potatoes. Just don't tell me it's
Right.
mashed. Don't tell me that. That's how I felt this movie was. I was not a fan of this movie, quite honestly, at all. Like there, and I can't pinpoint why, because there was just, it had a lot of the tropes. It's like, here's this. I just saw, by the way, I didn't even realize that it was a 20-year anniversary, but the day before Valentine's, I randomly put on 10 day How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and No Strings Attached. Both of them I back to back. I saw on the same day.
Yeah.
No reason why. It wasn't because it's Valentine's Day. I'm married and we were fine. But it, again, just randomly. And then like that was like a week and a half ago, February 14th. And then I found out last week that Matthew McConaughey and this girl did an Ask Me Anything, because it was a 20-year anniversary of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And I just, so watching those movies rather recently and now watching Your Place or Mine, it's like, look, it's a rom-com, but we're not the same as everybody else. And we're going to write on the screen little funny little things. And we're going to say things like, oh, just happily ever after. Just kidding. Marriage is hard. It's like, yeah, we get it. We're cool. And I'm like, but okay, sure. It was just,
Like
You know,
I get where they were. I get where they were going with that, right? Because they're trying to like really drive it home that this is the early 2000s. You know,
Right.
like
right,
and
right.
it's funny to our age group because we were there at that point, like the layered
Right.
tank tops and
Right.
like all like the fashion things that they pointed
the
out.
trucker
like, yes,
hat.
right? Like we lived all the chain
That was such a
wallet
good
and the-
callback to Ashton Kutcher's punk days. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I get why they did it, but
Yeah, I
I'm
just,
kind of with you,
I,
Mary.
and I didn't want, like, I wasn't really rooting for these two to get together. I'm not even, there's like, the internet is apparently upset. They're like, my wife was one of them, but apparently the internet shared her frustrations. Like they weren't even in the same fucking scene until the very end. I'm like, yeah, but you have Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan not seeing each other, not being in the same scene in Sleepless in Seattle until the very, very end.
Right.
And but that movie, you wanted those two characters to get together, and I was really like, I think they're really good friends. Just stay as I don't like. I wasn't rooting for them.
really.
Yeah, and
I was
like,
torn
and
with
she
between
met-
her and Theo.
yeah,
Like
and she
her
met-
and Theo and her
know!
and Ashton.
yeah.
Like that, I really thought her and Theo would have done something.
I was like, you just met this guy who's stunningly beautiful. Like, oh my god, this guy's stunningly beautiful. And guess what? He's an editor of every book you fucking love.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Like, but the
And
guy,
he's nice. Like he's not a jerk. You know,
Right.
He's like
he's not even. He's not
You
even.
just got you a
Could be.
job interview and your friend's book published.
Yeah,
like
but
that,
nice
like,
is. I mean,
And
we'll
I'm just
talk
like,
about it in a minute. But nice is like
yeah,
nice is
but
could be
nice,
a red flag.
stunningly beautiful, nice, stunningly
that should
beautiful,
be a red
and
flag.
like
Ugh.
like successful, and he loves, and he does what you love. He's the editor. Like, you love reading books. You've read all his. Like, I don't understand. Oh, but let me go to this 2-time alcoholic, fucking like what? Like, I don't
I mean, he's
understand.
But
clearly
okay, wait a minute.
he's
But
clearly
wait.
successful though.
But okay, we can't hold it against him that they have. I'm kind of want to defend the fact that they both have baggage. Like she's kind of impossible in her own right.
Oh, dude, I get
But-
that package, but I wasn't rooting for them. Is all I'm saying. I wasn't rooting for these two to get together. I'm not saying I didn't like this. I didn't dislike them as characters. I like Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon as characters, but I wasn't rooting for them to come together. I was more rooting for Reese to get hooked up with this Adonis. This Adonis who reads and writes and publishes books. I'm like, yeah, get with that guy. Get like this guy right there. You
But
already fucked him.
sometimes you
You already
like
had sex.
criteria. I have a
For
lot
those-
of questions about that.
For the
for
visual-
those of you who
for
are
visual-
listening
audio
to
listener,
us,
this,
yeah.
this is sex. This is the
No, I got it. I got it.
ASL sign for sex.
Missy, go ahead. Ignore him. Please finish what you were saying.
Oh, you don't. That's not a thing that happens. I was gonna say that the interesting part to me was that they both have their own baggage, like adult baggage. You know what I mean? Like most rom-coms are like in the glory days, the classics. It's like, oh, it's like a generic like scared to fall in love thing, but you don't really have any substance behind it. Whereas here, and I'm sure that there's other movies that have done this, but I don't watch new movies because that's not my thing. But in this specific case, like I really enjoyed that they both had their own like separate baggage that they had to deal with. And then I also would agree with the internet that they weren't in any scenes together, so you didn't get to play with that cat and mouse like tension that you would usually get in rom-coms, like straightforward rom-coms. And for some reason it didn't work as well as like classics like Sleepless in Seattle. And that's the thing, I think that's the trap with this genre overall, is that the bar is set so damn high that like if you don't give me the feeling or like the experience of the classics, then I'm not really gonna be that into it, in my opinion. So, but it wasn't an awful movie. I've seen worse, and I've paid money for them. So like I'm not against.
We've all seen Fast Five. We've all seen it.
No, I'm talking about actually most of the bad movies I've seen in the movie theaters has been with this asshole. So that's for another day. But yeah, so like I enjoyed it.
We're looking at you.
I would say that you know that the bar is set at Charlie's Angels.
That's the same bar. I think that's the same bar.
So let's just quick 10-second loop you in for Chad and Hilda and everyone that's watching that doesn't know this story. When Charlie's Angels was coming out, by the trailer, I called it that it was going to be
The newest one, I should say.
the Elizabeth Banks one. By the trailer, I called it that it was going to be a shit movie. And Neri was like, you're being too negative. You can't just tell by a trailer it's going to suck. And I'm like, it's going to suck. It's absolutely going to suck 100%. And we go to the movies, and we're watching it. And like minute one, I was like, I'm right. And I turned to him and he's like, give it a chance. You're being or whatever. Half an hour later, he's like, man, this movie sucks. And then he's like, do you want to go? And I was like, no. We're here. We're going to watch the movie and we're going to see it through. We get in the car after the movie's done. It was like quiet, like, just a random quiet. And he's like turning the corner and he's like, well, that turned on me really quick. And I was like, sure fucking did, didn't it? That's like,
This joke backfired on me.
yeah, it backfired on him real quick. So like that's, but again, going back to this, like I've seen shitty movies. I like some shitty movies, I confess, and I wouldn't call this one a bad movie. It's just like underwhelming, I would say. Like you're like, okay, I guess, like, you know,
Well,
but not really like, oh my god.
So that's
Yeah,
my issue. That's my issue with this movie is like there are bad movies, and I don't think this is a bad movie. Sometimes, however, and I feel about this, I've said this multiple times. Sometimes, some worse than a bad movie is a meh movie, and that's what this is. Sometimes when you have a bad movie, it's because you swung too big, and something happened. The CGI didn't come through, whatever whatever the case may be. But you swung big, but the performance wasn't there. Like maybe the story was good, but the acting killed it, or vice versa, or whatever the hell, and that makes a bad movie. But this is not any of that. I don't think anybody would say that there's bad acting in this movie. I don't think anybody would even say that there's bad writing in this movie. But I will say it's so underwhelming that I'm like, I think this is worse than a bad movie. It's a meh. It's just a fucking meh movie. I will say that whole thing about her getting this guy's book published without his knowledge, like they were making it out to be this like crime of the century. Like, don't tell him, just do it, girl. You're spontaneous, and the whole time I'm like, you have a test to study for. What the fuck is happening? Like I was so confused. Whatever. I just thought that whole fucking
The fact that
storyline.
you of all people would be like study is a little concerning. That means you were really out of the moment.
First of all, like I didn't completely comprehend that it was a week-long class.
Yeah,
Just
apparently
a week.
It's like a-
was her last bit for her degree because going on there are week-long classes that you need to.
Yeah,
your
just
degree.
a week-long class out of community college or whatever college, and
or like a
I don't know,
course. It was like a course or
across the
something.
country.
yeah,
Yeah.
across the country, and then when she sits down in class the first day, the first fucking minute in class, which is hilarious. Out of all people, Reese Witherspoon sits down and opens up a notebook. I'm like, did you not learn anything when you went to fucking law school about laptops? Did you not learn?
Right?
That's
It-
Mary,
I think
that's
that's
what
a
I'm.
callback
That's what I
to
was.
that. Yeah.
It is, but that's what I'm talking about too. Where it's like it is kind of bad writing. It's not bad acting, but some of the
Yeah.
things just don't. They just
It's just
they miss the
clunky.
mark.
It's
They
just
miss the mark.
clunky.
Like she says to the girl next to her, you know, or the girl next to her says, you know, all the notes are online, right? And she's
That's
like,
what I
oh,
was-
but I
that's what I was
remember. And then, but then again, as she walks out of the classroom, she's Reese Witherspoon says to the same girl, she goes, do you want to meet up and compare notes? And I'm like, you just went over. She didn't take notes. Like she just told you, there's no notes to take. Like
And
all the
also,
notes are the same. all the
she
notes
gave me
are
the cold
online.
shoulder to stop. She gave
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, who?
Like,
that
she
that
just
chick
walks
was
away.
like
But
completely
it
oblivious.
was-
Yeah.
Yes, and it was little things like that in the writing that, again, not bad acted, but just there are all these little things that kept giving me pause, and I'm like, I wanted more for this. I like these actors, right? Again, like I agree with Missy. I think the baggage that they have is age appropriate. We can connect to it. Like I wanted
Right.
more from this, and it just all those little things kept taking me out of the movie.
It was just I
I was
found
pulling
it.
a mic.
I will agree with you. I will agree with you, Hilda, that as far as the writing is concerned, the moment I said it's not bad writing, I was like, well, it's not good writing either. Yeah, it took me out of it.
It's not
'cause when
great.
No, when she said, I felt like, hey, we have a premise and here's the overall, and we need a reason for them to swap houses. We need a reason for them. And then they were just like, she needs to go to school to finish the degree, a program. It's only available for, and it's like a week. Like, what? That's the reason she's gonna be at his house.
That's the best they could come up with.
And then it's like, what threw me off was honestly was she goes, oh, the notes are online. I'm like, why isn't this entire fucking course online then? Why can't she do this from her house in LA?
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
understand what the fuck is
Exactly.
happening. I literally said this to my wife out loud. I was like, if the notes are online, why can't she just do this from her house in LA? I don't understand why the fuck she needs to physically do
Because
I
then
know.
the movie would be over.
That's what I'm
Obviously.
saying. Come up with a better fucking reason for her to be out to New York. Like, find a better
Exactly.
reason.
Honestly,
for
until
her.
they started really pushing that like course thing, I thought she was just going there to hang out with him, like because they've not been able to see each other forever. I
Yeah,
thought that's
Right.
the initial present, and then they started kicking in the stupid course thing.
and I'm just
You
like,
know
why
what
don't
this
you
movie
just-
needed? This movie needed the writers from Emily in Paris to
Just-
step in and fix it.
I haven't seen the show, so I don't know if that's a joke or not.
That
So I
show's
don't know.
great. I like that show. That show's
I don't know.
great.
I don't know. I've never seen the show.
It's the same
But-
writers from Sex and the City. I should have gone with something we all know.
Oh,
Sorry.
Six and the City, yeah. But I just felt like I was just like, why didn't you have it just like that she was having a convention for her job, and the convention was in New York.
Yeah, usually
That's it.
something
That's all
good.
you fucking needed. You didn't need the whole school aspect and your whole school angle. Like, what is that? Whatever, bro. It just really, I don't know. When I'm thinking about this, when I'm talking about this, instead of talking about whether or not the movie was good or not, there's an issue. Like that's the problem. I think it's like, all right, this is very underwhelming. Let's go through the reviews. What as far as the ratings, what you guys would rate I'm trying to get the Rotten Tomato scores over here. So what you guys would rate the
So Rotten Tomatoes has this at 32%.
critics? Is that critics or is
Oh.
that
I don't know.
so? Rotten Tomatoes
have-
has it at 30% for the critics, 38%
Oh.
for the audience score.
Okay.
So
So
I
it
guess
has changed since I made my notes.
yeah. And I'm guessing not in the upward trajectory.
So wait, so when
Maybe
you
the
do the
33
ratings,
Maybe the 33 is a between the two of them. It still be 34. Anyways, yeah,
It's the medium. It's the median.
Yeah.
It's the median.
30% critics,
score.
38% audience score. Yeah, oof, brutal. What would be your score,
Yeah.
Hilda? And what would be your rating? And what would be your rating system?
Okay, so I'm gonna go 2 out of 5. No nut butters. And I'm really proud of myself for saying that with a straight face. Now I can't keep it together because of Missy, but
sorry.
2 out of
Sorry.
5. No nut butters.
That was really good. That's like me trying to keep a straight face when I order my super complicated Starbucks order every morning in the morning. I'm like, can I have a venti grande? You know what? That thing right there. Okay.
All right, Missy, what would be your rating and your?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this part, so I'm gonna go with
wait, hold on, Hilda. You said 2 out of 5. Is that what you said?
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
No
All right.
nut
2 out of 5
butters.
what though? 2 out of 5.
Pellegrinos.
Damn it. 2 out of
Poker
5.
chips.
Okay. I would give
I don't know.
it
Just shouting stuff.
out of does it have to be 5 or I can pick whatever number?
No, it's 5. The rating is 1 through 5. Is what would you give it in the rating?
Okay, that was asking. I've
That's
never
cool.
been here before. Sorry,
That's-
it's my first day of school.
Yeah.
I would
Everything is
give
done
it.
online. Everything is done online, by the way.
Oh no, I
All the
take
notes.
notes by hand.
All the notes are all the previous episode
No, I
notes
take
are online.
notes. I take notes. I would give it 2 out of 5 hockey sticks.
2 out of 5.
Actually, wait, I take it back. 2 out of 5 hematomas. I will give it 2 out of 5 hematomas.
You took my thing.
Shit, sorry.
darn it.
2 out of 5. All right, Chad.
Hold on. Now that Missy stole my thunder.
I have been ruining life since 1983, bud. I'm sorry.
Let's see.
I set the bar pretty
How about-
high at no nut butters.
No, 100%.
I'll,
No, you
I'll
killed
put
it.
3 out of 5 one night stands.
3 out of 5 one-night stands. Okay. I would go with man, I was gonna go with the hematoma. Yeah, I was gonna go with that one too. I would go with I would go with 1.5 out of 5 unsupervised hockey game. That's what I would go with. 1 out of 5. Yeah, that's a fucking because that lady's parents like, oh, you took my son to a hockey game. He was in a VIP box, but I had no idea who you were. Like what?
Yeah.
Bit weird,
Also,
right?
those kids were shitty for like. It
Oh!
took the kid to get a fucking like concussion for you to be like, maybe we should be nice to him now. Fuck off.
Apparently one of them was a best friend,
Yeah.
and he just decided to. I would have already been like, I'm done with this.
Well, he needs better friends.
Yeah, Ashton
Yeah.
Kutcher is like he's not a parent, but it's a really bad advice he's giving. Like, hey, you want to win this guy back? What?
Well,
did.
he confesses. He's like he was trying to approach it like a marketing thing, and it's
Yeah.
like people. It's not
Yeah.
a corporation. So
He's
Uh,
doing
yeah.
what he knows. He's doing what he knows,
tried.
right?
He tried. He said he screwed it up. He said it.
Yeah.
1.5, a 1.5 out of 5. Uh, unnecessary neighbors. That character was so unnecessary. I can't believe.
yeah, he was also It's
It
like
was
if
so
they wanted
random.
him for comedic relief, they could have worked on that a little bit more.
And
He was-
creepy because apparently he's playing a long game of some sort.
Even
But-
after they end up together, like
Yeah.
But wait, here's my thing though.
read the
It was
room.
still
come on.
I'm still unsure. Did they actually hook up? Because he said that they were fuck buddies every
They
once in
said
a while.
he did claim they were fuck buddies. But
Yeah, but they never did.
knows?
Because then he looked at him and he was like, "What?" And he was like, "Well, like he's like, if I buy my time." Like he kind of retracted and was like,
no, but he
"It's
did
like
say
where
at the
he's
end of that.
hoping."
He did say at the end of it, it's like, yeah, I can't. She's not my girlfriend now, but I'll take friends with benefits.
Yeah,
That's-
that's what
Oh,
I'm
that's
saying.
right. That's right.
It's very
So that's-
confusing. We
That
were
sounds
like,
like she occasionally dives at him.
Yeah, but also like friends with benefits. You guys, I took it like a funny reference to Mila Kunis's movie.
I mean, that
Yeah.
could 100% be what it was, but
I
friends
took
with
it the
benefits
same
has a
way.
specific meaning.
I took it the same way, but it also has a specific meaning in what he was talking about. And I thought it'd be here's what I thought. I go, oh, that's a good reference to his wife's movie. But then I was like, wouldn't it have been funnier if he would have said no strings attached because he was actually in that movie and it would meant the same thing? You
I
know what?
wasn't in the
I'm going with you,
writing.
Hilda. I'm with you on this one, Hilda. Writing, bad writing.
It's
Fuck
the
this movie.
writing,
Bad
like,
writing.
that-
You're right.
Again, what you're saying, the ingredients were there, right? The actors were there, the talent was there.
You
But
just
I don't
air
know. I
fried it
mean,
instead of
Steve,
deep frying it.
Steve, I know. But I mean, come on, Steve Zahn, like hit song, you know,
Yeah.
what is it? Safe travels. I hope you make it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna stick with you.
I guess my response to that would be like, good
Uh,
afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
It
Good
did.
afternoon.
I will say this. I will say this. It did make me want to go and kind of dig out like old Cars albums. The band, the Cars.
The notes
Right.
are online, Hilda. Just listen to Apple Music.
You know what? You want to laugh?
That's not that fun.
You want to laugh? I'm not a classic rock guy. So when they were talking, when every time a song and we watch it with captions and it says blah 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 by the Cars, I go, oh, this is a song by the Cars. I was that guy.
Yep. No, I was not far off. I didn't really know that either.
I was like, oh, this is.
I like.
oh, this is.
I
them?
like a little bit of everything, taste wise. So.
Well,
music
I
taste-wise,
like
so
a lot
I'm
of
like,
things.
oh.
I just don't know about a lot of things. So like I had heard the songs, but I was like, oh, I didn't know this is one of their songs. Okay, that's cool. All right, so that's it for Your Place or Mine. Act 2 is Sleeping with the Enemy. 1991's Sleeping with the Enemy. Official film synopsis is after faking her death. Wow, spoiler alert off the top, huh? After faking her death in order to flee from her violent husband Martin, Laura Burney leaves Cape Cod and moves to Iowa, where she adopts a new identity and starts dating a local theater teacher, Ben Woodward. Martin, meanwhile, unearths evidence suggesting that she isn't dead, and when her mother confirms this, he tracks her to Iowa. He finds Laura and Ben and confronts them, forcing her to fight for her life once again. Julie Roberts in Sleeping with the Enemy. Bum, bum, bum. Hilda, reactions?
This movie I hadn't seen in a really long time, and it's still just as good as when I first saw it. It's, it's a heavy topic, when you're talking about
Is it?
domestic abuse. Yeah,
I know,
domestic. We're gonna go from a rom-com to like a movie based on domestic abuse. So it's a really heavy topic. I had not seen this movie in a long time, but it still held up for me. I enjoyed it watching it again just as much as I had, in years past. Yeah, that's initial reaction to rewatching it.
All right.
I know we'll dive in more.
We'll dive in more. Missy, your thoughts?
I did not rewatch it because I've seen it enough times that I can talk about it off the top of my head. I've always loved this movie. I think the all of everything about this movie is I always connected with it now. It's a little bit tougher for me to watch it now. But if it was on in like the cable days, if it was on TBS or TNT, like I would watch it. Same thing with
Yeah.
like movies, not the same genre, but like Twister stuff. Like if it's on, I'm watching it. But yeah, Julia. This is with Julia Roberts. Like I think right after Pretty Woman, so she had just like shot off in her stardom,
Yeah.
and I love everything about the movie, the contrast and everything, and I'm sure we'll dive in, but it holds up. I know it holds up. Like that's I I would, yeah, I can say that confidently without rewatching it recently. So I like this movie a lot.
Chadwick.
I've loved this movie since I was probably way too young to watch it. It's one of my Mima's favorite movies. So
Yep.
when it came out, what was that, 91? I was 11.
Man, the
And
women in
she,
your family, Chad.
yeah, I
gotta be
know.
honest. The last two episodes, the women in your family just have a certain particular taste, man.
Don't they? And I wonder why I turned out the way I did. But yeah, she loved it. I watched the hell out of this with her, and I've watched it many times since, and I watched it again for this. And yeah, man, it there's rarely obviously it's domestic abuse, but it's like the creepiness factor of that guy is so off the chart. And he
I don't think he ever blinks the whole movie.
no, right, and and I could see like one of those things that I've always, it's easy to say, oh, just leave, your abusive spouse or your abusive partner or whatever. But if the other person is like this, I can see why people don't, because like he's
So honestly, sometimes it doesn't even have to be this extreme. It's just that
Right.
a lot of times it's so psychologically abusive that
Right.
psychologically it's hard to leave, right?
Yeah. And
But
I
yeah,
know there's a ton of other factors that go into it, but I'm just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
this guy is like the personification of the terrifying spouse, in my
yeah,
mind.
yeah. He's terrifying in this.
Yeah, he this movie I saw this movie ironically I saw this movie maybe 2 months ago. And just randomly again watching. I like to go through I have a pretty extensive movie library digitally, a digital movie library, and I just like to go randomly by alphabetical order. Like, oh, let's watch a movie that I haven't seen in X amount of years, and I'll just start randomly. Like, oh, today's A and tomorrow's B. So about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I don't even think it was 2 months ago. It was definitely 2023. I saw Sleeping with the Enemy. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this in 20 years, 30 years, and I watched it, and Jesus, it's so fucking good. It is so good. It's such a good movie. It definitely is a product of its time. It's definitely a 90s movie. It's definitely a
Yeah.
90s thriller. It has that shot, that feel. A couple things I will say about this that stick with me is for 30 plus years, the there's some shots in some movies that you just remember, right? And I think an easy one to talk about is like Endgame, right? Like with the portals open up, you just go, oh, like it's one of those shots that stays with you, whatever.
Too soon.
And and then but I remember watching this movie as a child. Again, I was born in 81. This movie came out in 91. I was maybe 11 years old when I finally saw this movie, and I saw it multiple times as a child. And I distinctly recall and will always not remember the shot when he's on speakerphone, her husband's on speakerphone, and the lady goes, yeah, she was in she had all those bruises on her, and the realization of like, oh my god, that is my wife because I put those bruises on her, and the way the camera spins around him,
Yeah.
that shot has just stayed with me for 30 plus fucking years, where I'm just like, man, what a fucking shot, man. And I just it gives me chills like fucking all over my spine when you go, he knows, because the whole time you're thinking like, don't find out, don't find out, don't find out.
Right.
And
And
man,
in that moment too, you're almost thinking, is it that or is it? See, and I always took it as she's talking to somebody about home, and it's that like that she's alive and she's like she's people know, right?
People
Or
know.
people
Yeah.
suspect And that's that whirlwind where he's like, his gears are turning and where he thinks because it's all about control, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I control the situation. I control what people see or what people know goes on in my house.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you must be mistaken. You know, like, oh, she's taking classes at the Y. It's like,
No,
what?
my wife's afraid
Like,
of
no.
water or whatever. Yeah.
Can't be
Yeah,
my
yes.
wife. You
Could be
know,
my wife. She just
it's
swims.
that
Oh,
it's that spin is like that loss of control, that reality
Yes.
that's hitting him,
Yes.
that he's
Yeah.
just like, for me, and still scary. Towards the end, those scenes where, you know, all of a sudden the bath towels are straight,
Uh-huh.
and she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
did I straighten the towels today? You know, or did I do it subconsciously? And then she finally gets to the kitchen cabinet and, oh, okay, no, it's still in disarray. But then like 2 minutes later, they're straight and you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, he's in the house. You know, and
Yep.
that's like, it's terrifying. You don't see him. You don't see a knife, you don't see a gun. Like, you think about other scary movies. It's this
Well, that's-
simple little thing of the pantry, like everything has been straightened out, and it's such a great
Yeah.
tension builder. As
I
far
Yeah,
think
because I was
as-
gonna say that's even more terrifying that he took the time to fuck with her
Yes.
head that much to just
yes.
straighten out a bunch of cans. But he knew it would fuck with her head. So
Well,
it-
it's a way that he can, you know, rein back in that control. It's going to put her
Yeah.
back mentally. It's going to put her back mentally when she was under his control.
I
So
just feel
then-
bad for anybody suffering from OCD watching this movie. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, am I in an abusive relationship with myself? Like,
Yes.
yes.
Um,
I am too. Don't worry.
I think that
Oh.
what I really I don't like scary movies, but I really like psychological like thrillers or scary like I guess you would call them scary movies. But what I really enjoy about this movie is that they were really intentional about using the settings to kind of put you in that, like, people think of the beach and you're like, oh, warm sun, fun, whatever, and that's not how it's portrayed here. It's like cold and rigid and like windy and isolated because they're not around a community. And then that shift, Neri, to your point, that shot that you're talking about, for me, the most memorable shift for like cinematography of this movie is when the bus pulls into the town for the first time and you kind of get a wide span of the town square, and like it's a lot more homier, a lot more comfortable. Like as a viewer, you kind of get to relax a little bit, like, oh, safe, like she's safe, you know. But the nuances, I think, of the abuse when she hasn't left him yet are so eerie because if you told a story, in any scenario and you explain that's like, we got in a fight and he stormed out, right? Like, you say that story and then you think like, oh, couples fight, like they stormed out. But like, that's exactly what happened, but it didn't, because it was like intense and he knocked the shit out of her. And then he came back and acted like everything was normal. We don't discuss, we don't address, we move forward. And like very strategic, very like there's like a methodology to how things, like the ecosystem in that house is gonna work. And I think that tension of like walking on eggshells, because even though you know exactly what will set the situation to go sideways, you still don't know. Like, it could be nothing. It could be like you could have a nothing conversation with a neighbor and then like he's gonna find out about it, and there's no way for him to find out, but he does. And like, so I think the other interesting thing for me to watch also is when she starts dating it's Ben, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Ben. When she starts dating Ben and
with
he's
the most gorgeous 90s
hair,
and hair.
just
Yeah.
luxurious.
Yes, the Uncle Jesse on him is just fucking.
Oh yeah, it's impeccable. But when you see the transition of her, like that push and pull of her wanting to like lean into this safe situation in a relationship, but she cannot bring herself to like cross the barrier and let her guard down essentially is, I think, also really great, like captured really great, because that's like a real thing. And then it's from an outsider's perspective, like you would be like, oh, but you left him and like you need to move on, and like that's another chapter, and like that's super easy to say.
I
But
don't
when
think
you're
who the fuck is saying that? Like, I don't think is anybody saying
but
that.
if you don't, because if you don't know or grasp or believe the situation that she's
severity?
in, yeah,
Severity,
then you would think like, oh my god, like, and that's it. It was a bad marriage, but you're not there anymore. Like, move on. From an outsider perspective, it's really easy to be like, hey, like, just move on. And then like the internal psyche of that whole moving on from a really traumatic situation, this movie I think does a really great thing, and it's so good at it that I can't watch it again. Like, there are certain movies that I've watched once and I'll never watch again. And even though this
Please
movie
remind-
I used that, even though this movie was like a regular on my rotation, if like it was on cable, like I don't go out of my way to watch it on a Saturday night, but like if it the cable days it was on, I would have it on. I don't think I would be like, this is not a date night movie. You know what I mean? It's a little bit, it's too intense for that.
you know
So,
what's weird?
but
You know what's weird? So it's not a date night movie, and if you're a dude and you're watching this movie by yourself, it's even fucking creepier that you're watching this movie by yourself. What are you watching, a fucking playbook? What do you want? Why are you?
are you
why-
taking
Yeah.
notes from
Yeah,
Ben or from the abuser? That's a tell. That's a tell.
If you're a man, you can't watch this movie on a date night because that's creepy as shit, and you can't. That's awkward. Let me rephrase that. That's awkward. And if you watch this movie by yourself, now you're just creepy, dude. It's like there's no like it's a weird balance of, but absolutely, a shout out to the homie for being a trailblazer in the gaslighting game. This is he was gaslighting before gaslighting was a term. Like, this motherfucker is like, it's your fault you didn't fucking put the towels aligned. So this
Yeah.
ass beating is it's your fault, right? And it's just like, well, I'm like, that's crazy, fucking, like, it's bonkers. And we'll say, cinematically great. It led for a great, like, the OCD and the cans thing led for a great scene at the end where she knew he was in the house because he
Mhm.
fucking just like that. Again, like, to Hilda's point, there was no gun. There was a gun later on, but at that moment, the biggest fear, it wasn't a jump scare. It was, holy fuck, he's
Like
in
the
the house.
realization,
The
yeah.
realization that he's in the house because of the fucking cans. It's like, I'm
But
surprised
that's
he even buying cans. I would have just stopped buying cans altogether. I'm like, fuck a can.
Fuck
I'm not
yeah.
eating this shit fresh. I'm not eating this at all. I don't give a fuck about cans anymore. Like,
That's what
Honestly,
makes
if I-
that's what makes it so
I saw those cans.
it's what makes it so terrifying though, right? Because as like, yeah, we're like kind of joking about it, right? But realistically, like, that's the kind of stuff that happens in these super abusive relationships. These things that seem so minor and so like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you're trapped in one of those environments, like those
brutal.
little things, it's and that's what makes it so terrifying, right? Because it isn't some like random sci-fi thing that's
Like,
scary.
it's
not like an axe wielding psycho in the
Yeah.
woods.
No, but
It's
Yeah.
like it's the monster that could literally be the CEO or literally be your
Yeah.
next door neighbor. It's literally
or
a
your
monster
spouse, yeah.
a monster among us. And to clarify, just because I want to, I feel that it's necessary to Hilda's point, we're making jokes of it because this is a comedy podcast. I am by no means, and I'm
Right,
speaking
right.
for myself here, I am by no means trying to make light of spousal abuse or like domestic violence. I'm making light of the movie for the comedy podcast sake of it.
Right.
But by no means, this is like terrifying shit. Like, I remember I watched it a month and a half ago, and I was like, holy fuck, this! I'm a grown ass man. And I'm like, oh my god, don't fucking go in there, girl. Like, I'm scared as fuck
Yeah.
for her. Like, I'm
It's still creepy. Like
I think it's a
1991, and it's still creepy.
I think it's at this choice for Julia Roberts in role when she had just come off the Pretty Woman, like,
Yeah, it's a hell of a turn.
yeah, and I really like commend that. I mean, one day when I meet her and we have coffee, I will let her know. But like,
Honestly. Yeah.
I really commend the fact that she could have very easily like just continued to go after like Mystic Pizza and Steel Magnolia and Pretty Woman. Like those were the trifecta before she starred in this movie.
I wonder. I don't mean to cut you off.
Were all
I
of those
wonder.
before this
I
one?
wonder I wonder if she filmed this before Pretty Woman was released, because I know it came out after Pretty Woman.
Yeah,
Wonder if
maybe it was like
So-
one of those years that she did like 2 or 3 movies like in a year or whatever, because I think it's like
Right.
what 60, 90 days to film a movie. So but it was
Depends
off,
when.
well, when it was released it was off the cuff of the
Yeah,
three-
it was definitely released after Pretty Woman, because Pretty Woman was 1990 and this was 91.
yeah.
I'm always wondering, because post production is like, it's one of those things where sometimes a movie takes forever to put out and whatever.
Yeah, she could have made it before. Yeah, you're right.
I wonder if she filmed it before, or I wonder if she was filming it before the release of Pretty Woman. Is what I wonder. I wonder how.
I'll ask her. Let me text her. Hold on.
Yeah, you got her number? Okay.
Mhm.
No, I got
You know,
her WhatsApp.
At the time though,
Julia
and when I
Roberts
was-
does not use WhatsApp.
what?
Of course she does.
That said, I got
Chad.
her WhatsApp.
Chad goes, I have her WhatsApp. I'm like, Julia Roberts does not use WhatsApp.
She might.
Yeah.
Okay.
Takes a shit like everybody else. Come on.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I gotta be. I think I'm.
She doesn't have family in South America. She does not use WhatsApp.
Hey, you don't know that.
Oh,
She might.
yeah.
She might.
Hey, I don't have South America. I use
But she
WhatsApp.
was when I was looking up stuff this though, to your point, Missy, you know, she was at that time she was the youngest actress to earn a 7-figure salary for this role, which was a really big
She's
deal.
a baddie.
And
Yeah.
she is totally a baddie. And not only that, but this other fun tidbit that I learned. It was the first weekend box office with the highest ever gross for a film starring a woman as the lead.
Yeah.
Was
Because they
this
made it
movie.
for something like 15 million and it grossed something like 175, I think the Wikipedia page told me. So like
Yeah.
she pulls it
A
in, the white
crazy
lady
amount.
pulled it in.
And she
But-
knocked Home Alone out of the dominating spot with this
Good
movie.
for her.
This movie knocked Home Alone out from dominating the box office in theaters at the time. Again, at the time.
It made a couple dollars.
Yeah.
It made a couple
Well, it's
bucks.
it's one of the reasons why they keep making horror movies of any stripe, right? It doesn't matter if they're good or bad because it takes so little. Like, what was the set cost on this movie?
15 million.
19
Yeah, I know.
million. It was 19 million. The budget was 19 million, and the box
That's what I'm
office
saying.
was
They could-
175.
They could do it for almost pennies and yet make $1 bajillion if it's right.
And you know what? One wrong decision, I think, for this movie, and it would have been really easy for it to be like a TV movie for those of us that remember those back in the
Yes.
day. Like if they would have made one cheesy like decision, then it could have definitely, but this is like a movie that you definitely like pay money to see if I'm like in 1991.
This I will say, I was watching it last month, and I did feel as if like, oh, this is a 90s movie. Like this is a 90s, like it had some of that still feeling esque of TV movie ish, except that it had Julia Roberts in it. Like it, you know what I mean? It has like, but I'm and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a, this is just like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that was a win.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that was like a
Yeah.
90. It felt like an early 90s movie. Like it was. There's some movies that age better than others, and as far as the cinematography, like you watch the first season of The Sopranos. The Sopranos
Yeah.
happened in thousands, and you watch the first season, you're like, oh, there's a lot of MTV cinematography vibe here. There's a lot of like, really like, you know, oh, look at us doing these weird things with these cameras, and we're adding all these filters, and you're like, oh, you guys just discovered filters. Okay, I get it. So anyways, moving on. All right, so the movie, I think we all agree the movie was great. However, critics do not agree.
Really?
Rotten Tomatoes, what would you guess if you had to guess? Hey, Hilda, if you already looked it up, don't guess. But if you had to guess,
Yeah, I'm
what
not going
the-
to say anything because I know.
If you had to guess what the Rotten Tomatoes would be on this movie,
It
What would-
better be higher than Sister Act 2, I'll tell you that much.
what would
I'd say like 70% because critics suck.
I
critics,
would,
It's still pretty good.
70% critics.
Yeah.
Okay, Missy, what would you
I'm
think?
gonna
critics?
lowball it and say like 55.
Okay. Well, I already tipped my hand because I said critics didn't agree. So I already tipped my hand. So 70 was way off on that one. But I will say 55 also way off. Yeah, critics gave this a 22% on Rotten
They're
Tomatoes.
so full of shit.
22.
And I hate critics.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the shit that bothers me the most, right? Because 22% is awful. It's low, and
I
it's
wish
not,
I was a critic. I could
and
do
it's
that
not
job.
as low. And by the way, not as low as Your Place or Mine. First of all, second of all,
Yeah, and this movie is 10 times better than Your Place
yeah,
or Mine.
yeah.
My ass.
And here's the part that bothers me the most, though. The audience score, 60.
Wow.
What do people in the 90s know anyway?
Yeah.
Shut up, 90s.
Yeah, and I was just like, but it should be higher than 60, right? It should be. I don't want
Be
to, but
way higher than 60.
it's
but
60. So
Yes, it is.
that is the
That's
rating.
bonkers.
Bonkers.
You know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, which movie are you likely to watch again? Between these two, and I might
Oh, it's
watch
easy.
Sleeping with the Enemy
I would absolutely
course.
watch the anime. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
a
this-
picture mine.
This one I would watch a million times more than it would be like 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1 before.
And you know,
it.
I really thought that going into, I don't know how long we go, but I really thought going into this movie that I was gonna have, Neri knows this, I have
Your
this
Place or
cringe.
Mine. You mean Your Place or Mine?
Your Place or Mine. Going into this movie, and Neri knows this because he's seen it in real time, where I get like irrationally angry at cute moments in movies. It can happen in any movie. Like
To be
the
fair-
last,
To be fair, she gets you rationally angry at cute moments in real life as well. Like it doesn't have to
they just feel unnatural. But like
Yeah.
for instance, like
If a guy, I've seen it where a guy's literally nice to Missy, and she goes, "What the fuck did this guy want?"
but I
Yes,
did.
Thank you for coming. I don't understand.
No.
Thank you for your purchase.
No, I know his tricks. I'm onto him. What is it that
Take a
that,
breath,
Oh,
girl.
scheme.
Take a breath.
Taylor Tomlinson says,
Oh, is this your Is this your thing?
is this
Oh,
your
I love
thing?
Taylor
I'm
Tomlinson.
not gonna
Yeah,
fall.
this is
Oh,
your
I'm not
thing.
gonna fall for your choreography. And I didn't have any. I went into this. I was actually dreading this movie for that exact moment. That I was like, oh god, I'm gonna have like that cringe thing where I don't want to watch because it's cute and it's gonna make me rash. That didn't happen once.
Yeah,
I was more pissed at the last 45 minutes of Casino Royale than I was at anything in this movie because I was like watching Casino Royale and I'm like, when the fuck did this movie turn into romantic comedy? Where's my murder? I want my murder. That was a visceral reaction.
Ironically enough, I was thinking the same thing watching Your Place or Mine. I'm like, where's the fucking murder? Give me a murder, please. Can it
Now
just-
the zombie's gonna come out and like.
I was like, oof, brutal.
Well, so I saw Cabin in the Woods last night, and Theo, again, Jesse something you said, right?
Jesse Williams.
Jesse Williams, he gets brutally murdered in that movie. So I'm like, I was
Yeah,
loving. That could have been a hell of a twitch. All of a sudden,
Crossover.
like a knife just comes out of his
Dream.
throat and freaking
Dreamy blue eyes.
screaming blue eyes.
I like.
God.
He's like
Mr.
inappropriately dreamy. Like
Yeah,
I know.
I would file a complaint.
You know, it's funny 'cause I was
With the
looking at my
beauty
phone.
board
When he first came on the screen, I was looking at my phone and I glanced up and then I went back to my phone and for like a split second I was like, "Is that Brian Austin Green?" And I look back up and then I look back up. I go, "No, that's not Brian Austin." You know,
I've been lately just rewatching Grey's Anatomy just to stare at him for like seasons at a time.
I can
he was on
confirm.
that- I didn't know he was on that show. I was just gonna start watching on mute and just be like, "Go ahead, man. Do whatever you gotta do.
Yeah.
Do
You do you, boo.
you do
You
you,
do
man.
you.
I got you."
You save that
Um,
patient.
Yeah, I don't fucking save him or don't save him. I don't care. It'd be nice to just see you. Go ahead.
Drop the scalpel.
Hilda, what would you give this rate? What's your rating system, and what would you rate Sleeping with the Enemy?
I love this movie. I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 straightened bath towels.
That was gonna be mine too. Okay. All right, Missy, what do you got?
I will give it 5 out of 5 apple pies.
Stolen.
Oh.
Meal with stolen fruit. I got you.
They came to an agreement. He made her food, and then it was an even trade. They do this shit at that festival all the time.
Right, of course.
Not that festival. You know that one. That
Oh.
one.
I can't think of it. It's gonna come back to me when we're offline.
Chad, rating.
5 out of 5. I'm gonna go straight in cans.
Strain cans. All right, you guys taking all the big hitters here. All right. I will
House
go.
was my first. but as usual.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Tao, and then I'm like, I guess I'll go with Cans. I guess. I will go with 4.5 out of 5. Broken light bulbs.
Mm.
4.5 out of 5 broken light bulbs. 'Cause that's what gave her away, man. If she would have cleaned her fucking light bulbs,
Yep.
would have been no fucking none the wiser.
Not only that, but the ring, she failed.
Oh yeah, who
Oh yeah,
flushes
the
in
ring in
sink?
the toilet. Yeah.
In her own toilet? You flush it? You fucking God. That's but
Throw
again,
it in the ocean.
you don't do that. You don't have a movie, so you kind of need that, right?
I guess.
All right.
Yeah, I would have
So-
thrown it in the ocean. That was stupid.
So we all I think it's unanimous. We all really like Sleeping with the Enemy. Which says a lot about this podcast. And then we don't really care for Your Place or Mine, which is hilarious.
I put it on now. I might
Like, I
watch
mean,
it after
have
we're
you
done.
seen my background and what we've already talked about? My taste.
Yeah,
I mean,
just-
come on.
But I'm a rom-com guy. Like I love rom-coms. And even I was like, oh boy, this is fucking rough over here. Tina
I need to
Jarrow-
cleanse my palate with some trauma refreshers. So I'm just gonna watch Sleeping.
Go watch Sword in the Stone. It always helps me when I need a trauma replacement. Sword in the Stone, baby.
Just go
I
throw
don't
on a
know.
couple random episodes in like season 8 of Grey's Anatomy. Just stare
Oh,
at
there you go.
Oh, I don't
Dream
watch
Blue
that.
Eyes
I don't. I'm
I
not
want to go
into
watch
that.
a good. I want to go watch a good rom-com. Which, by the way, not to tip my hand too much, but we should probably review at some point. You People, Netflix original. You
Yeah,
People.
I still want to see that. Yeah, we had talked about that.
So we had talked about that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
still want to see that. So that looks
all
good.
right. So, thank you guys for checking us out. Check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network that include, but are not limited to, Better Let Me Tell You, Chow Like a Best with Mike Valdez, Shiver, the Horror Movie Podcast, the What's Up Bro Podcast. What else are we missing here? Pharmacopoeia with Jeff and Q.
Better let me tell you.
Yeah, that was the first one I mentioned.
Oh,
Better
my
Let-
bad. Sorry.
And then
Kick
so go to
flicks.
Kickflix. Go to geekbro.net. Check out the other podcast. That's geekbro.net. And thank you very much to Hilda and special guest Missy and Chad. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Would love to have you guys on. Would I love to have Missy back on to
Oh, yeah.
do an actual good romantic comedy. That she this is Missy's forte, by the way. FYI, like we share the family share, the Apple family share. And if ever there's a rom-com, before I go through the 2,000 movies that I own, I was like, I'm just gonna go through Missy's. It's just quicker that way. And then
I am who I am.
and that's
That's
awesome.
perfect. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
you've gotten in trouble a couple times because I think what was the movie that you were like, oh, Missy has this, let me just check, and then you ended up buying it because I didn't own it.
There's been a few of them, but the most recent, what was the most recent one? But there are times where, so if for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you are on a family share on the Apple Family Share program, if you buy a movie that somebody else in the family share owns, it won't let you buy it. It'll like you'll go through the process of buying it, and at the very end, the last step, you'll even put purchase, and you double click and you purchase, and then it'll say a family member already owns it. Do you want to go download it from their profile? It won't allow you to purchase it. So
It's a weird choice for Apple. I'm actually surprised they don't want you to buy it.
yes. So
Uh,
so there's been a couple times where it's like because I don't want to take the time to start looking through like people's lists, especially when I'm on my phone, especially if I'm in the middle of the ocean, like the Wi-Fi isn't the greatest. So I'll just be like, I'll purchase it, and it'll tell me that somebody else already owns it, and then I'll just go watch it there, like a shortcut. And the latest one was the Family Stone. I'm like, I'm gonna purchase the Family Stone, and Apple was like, you got it, and I'm like, wait, no. You gotta tell me that Missy already owns it. And it's like, nope, you own it. I'm like, sons of.
He calls me and he's like, you owe me $15. I'm like, I just woke up. What is happening?
But it's happened a few times with a few movies.
And that's saying something. And I have questionable taste in movies. And
P.S.
for me,
I love you. P.S. I love you was the other one.
oh,
I
that's true.
legitimately was like, it was on sale, and I was like, I'm gonna buy it, but I'm not gonna buy it because it's gonna tell me Missy owns it. And then I'm like, you got it. I'm like, no.
I love that movie. See,
It's great. I just hadn't bought it.
I cry so hard every time.
Yeah.
We do too, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in the shower. What?
All right, thank you guys for checking us out. We love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Check out geekbro.net. Go check out Hilda's Instagram, which is tabletop gamer girl on Instagram, and does a phenomenal job of displaying and showing a bunch of new board or new. I say new because I've never heard of them board games, and I'm always like, oh, this is cool. That sounds cool. Thank you very much for checking us out. And that's how movies are reviewed.